Let me ask you about the great filter. When you look up into our galaxy, into our universe, look up at the sky, do you think there's other alien civilizations that are contending with some similar questions? And perhaps the reason we have not definitively seen alien civilizations is because the others have failed to find a solution to this great filter, something like nuclear weapons.
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to think about that question. But what does come to mind is an answer that was given to me similarly, right? By by Ed Mitchell, who went to the moon, right? Um, and he was the sixth man to walk on the moon. And so his opinion, I think, might count a little more than mine on that subject because his lens is so much greater, right? And Mitchell was vilified when he got back from the moon because it became known that he believed in things like extrasensory perception
Mhm.
and this kind of mystical, metaphysical way of looking at the world. And he really suffered from that. I mean, he was ridiculed and he lost a lot of his career and his friends. But what he said to me in our interview about his trip home from the moon answers that great filter question, I think, in a way I might want to adopt, right? Which is this, that he said that as they were returning from the moon to Earth, he looked down at the Earth and I'm paraphrasing him. I write all this in Phenomena, an earlier book, but the paraphrasing is that he looked down from the Earth and it was 1971 and he thought about all the conflict going on down below, particularly the Vietnam War, where many of his friends were. And then he looked behind him into the great, vast galaxy. And he had a moment, he says, that was like an epiphany, like not a near death experience, but a sort of near life experience, right? Where he believed that the human consciousness, which is where so much of this thoughtfulness about metaphysics and uh, ESP perhaps come from. Mitchell's theory was that human consciousness, the way to understand it had something to do with realizing that man's inner life and man's outer life are deeply connected in the same way that man is connected to the galaxy. And he said it much more eloquently, but you kind of get the idea that, and I think it's why humans have always loved to look up, right? That there's more there. And it's a bit like it's like the big version of the wishing tree, you know? What do I wish for myself? And what is maybe perhaps the realignment of thinking for those of us in search of happiness, right? And rather instead of war is um what does it mean to have a conscience, to have consciousness? What does it mean to be a thinking person? What does it mean to be on this earth? To be born, to live, to die. And then there is legacy. And so all of those ideas are, I think, foster the kind of conversation that de-escalates conflict.
Mhm. Yeah, so in some deep way, so the mysteries of what's out there when we look out to the stars are the same mysteries that we find in when trying to understand the human mind, and they're coupled in some way. For me, thinking about alien civilizations out there is really the same kind of question, which is what are we? What is this? What are we doing here? How do we come here? Why does it seem to be so magical and beautiful and powerful? Where's it going? Because it feels like we're really, perhaps for the first time in history, are in a moment where we can destroy ourselves. And so naturally you ask, well, where's others like us?
Mm.
Is it perhaps, are we inevitably going to a place where we'll destroy ourselves? Is it basically inevitable that we destroy ourselves? We become too powerful and not insufficiently wise to know what to do with that power. But like you said, probably the answers to that are in here. We don't need to look out there.